Now, international opposition continues to grow over Israel's decision to take over Gaza City, with the UN Security Council set to hold an emergency meeting on Sunday. The Secretary-General called the military escalation dangerous, saying that it risks many lives, including those of the remaining Israeli hostages. The foreign ministers of Britain, Italy, Germany, Australia and New Zealand issued a joint statement strongly rejecting Mr. Netanyahu's plan to expand the war in Gaza. They said it will aggravate the catastrophic humanitarian situation, endanger the lives of the hostages and further risk the mass displacement of civilians, adding any attempts at annexation or of settlement extension violate international law. Now, Israel has defended the decision to escalate its military expansion in Gaza, with the Defence Minister Israel Katz saying international partners who condemned Israel would not weaken their resolve to defeat Hamas. Now, currently, Israeli forces have control of around 75% of the territory. The new plan is to take over Gaza City, home to around 1 million Palestinians. Let me just show you the satellite picture, which shows the density of the area 2 years ago. This image, though, was taken recently, and it shows some parts completely destroyed in this war, while others remain largely intact. Now, Israel doesn't allow international journalists, including the BBC, into Gaza, so we have to rely on trusted freelancers within the territory. John Donnison, then, has sent this report from Jerusalem.
Homeless and hungry, Gazans woke up to the news today that this war is far from over. As if they needed telling. More Israeli airstrikes, and in Gaza City, the threat of another ground invasion. What is the point of a ground invasion? Nafez Ajour argues. There's nothing left that you haven't wiped out. There's nothing left, and there's no food either. With many already living in tents, under Benjamin Netanyahu's plan, up to 1 million people here will be ordered to flee for the umpteenth time.
Gaza City is not safe. The north is not safe. Where should we go? Do we throw ourselves into the sea?
For Gazans, the destruction and the suffering is endless. Just 50 miles away, but a world apart in Jerusalem, Israelis were stocking up for the weekend. Hundreds of thousands of troops will be needed to capture Gaza City, but the people we spoke to here said there was no choice.
What's the alternative? What should they do instead? Have we tried making deals? Yes. It's not doing anything. Has there still been attacks? Yes. Has there still been casualties on both sides? Yes. So it needs to be finished. That's it.
We need to finish now all the terror. If the name is Hamas, now we must, not need, we must now.
This decision by the Prime Minister is divisive. We found plenty of people here who back him, but polls show the majority of Israelis think the best way to get the remaining hostages home is ending the war and a ceasefire deal. So this decision is a gamble.
Again this weekend, there will be mass protests by hostage families and their supporters. Many argue that if their loved ones don't get out of Gaza alive, their Prime Minister will be partly to blame. John Donnison, BBC News, Jerusalem.
OK, let's speak to Joel Onyeke, who is Head of Operations in Gaza for Save the Children. Joel, hello, welcome to the programme. First off, what's your reaction to this plan by Israel to take control of Gaza City? What are the implications for your team on the ground?
Well, we know what military expansion and military occupation means for Palestinian children. We have seen military expansions in Gaza over the past 2 years, as well as military occupation, and we know the harm, that children face as a consequence of that. I think what we currently need in Gaza is a definitive ceasefire in place. Children in Gaza have been paying, the highest price for this unrelenting war that they have played no part in. Many children have been killed by bombs and bullets, and, at a very unprecedented rate. And, children have lost their homes, loved ones, and, the safety of which they have a right to. They are dying of hunger and diseases. And the same applies to even my colleagues on the ground here. I think what we actually need more than ever is a definitive ceasefire in Gaza.
You say that children are paying the highest price. Just remind us why it is children, this segment of the population, of which we're seeing some of the worst fatalities. What is it about the population in Gaza?
Yeah, children are particularly vulnerable to the effects of explosive weapons. Their bodies are oftentimes thrown harder and further away by the blast. Their bones, bend more. This also increases the chance of long-term disabilities for children. They have, less blood to give or to lose, and they are very unlikely to see medical or special care given the decimated health systems within Gaza currently. So speaking from that perspective is why I flag children, and working for an organization that is centered around children. We hear the cries of these children. We see the mental, impact of the war on them. We see the level of malnutrition. We see the level of hunger on the ground, and children, once again, are the most impacted.
I don't know if you caught the report that we played just before I came to speak to you, Joel, and there was a lady there saying, where should we go? Should we throw ourselves in the sea? Where are people going? It's a shame. I think we've lost Joel there for a moment. We will, if we can, go back to him, but we seem to have lost that connection. In the meantime, we're going to stay within the region and speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Amir Nada, who joins us now. Amir, I was just referring there to John Donaldson's report, and he'd mentioned how divisive this particular part of the war and the plan by Mr. Netanyahu has been in the country. Just expand that for us, if you could.
Well, in the run-up to the decision, we saw this rare outburst of serving and indeed former security officials, military chiefs, calling on Prime Minister Netanyahu not to make this decision to go into the Gaza City, to conquer it, to force out 1 million Palestinians. We saw them mostly articulate that in the form of the danger that it could pose to hostages. We saw over 500 former security chiefs talk about the damage that it could also cause to Israel's reputation internationally. Opposition leaders have said the same thing, talking about the possibility that Israeli hostages are being held around Gaza City. It's believed that's the case. Their lives could be in danger. We know that Hamas previously has said that should Israeli troops come near to places that Israeli captives are being held, that their captors have been given orders to execute them. Hostage families are, of course, extremely distressed, saying that this plan is essentially a death sentence for their families, for their relatives who remain captive in the Gaza Strip. Then the announcement came yesterday morning, and we saw from the chief of staff of the Israeli military, who had, it was widely known, had been a vocal critic of the plan. We saw him publicly stating that there is now unity with the government. The Israeli military will carry out this plan. They presented this unified front, and we've seen the government really reassert and sort of double down on its language, hardening its language in the face of so much international and indeed domestic criticism, with the Minister of Defence yesterday evening saying that all of this condemnation internally, externally, the threats of sanctions on Israel, none of this will weaken our resolve. So there isn't really any sense that this huge international pressure on Israel and on Prime Minister Netanyahu's government will do anything to shift their thinking over this very dramatic and severe plan that they've announced.
OK. Amir Nada, thank you very much for that. Thank you.